the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but He, and Muhammad is His servant. My dear brothers and sisters, first I apologize to you. Right at about 1:25, I got an unexpected visitor, and it threw me all the way off, and I'm only getting here now. But doesn't mean I'm going to cut short what I intend to say. I just have to say it faster, and yet not hold you unreasonably long. I apologize for that, though, because the days that you teach this teaching is so necessary to keep your focus. I don't know that you necessarily have had the experience of delivering this teaching. You may deliver something else, but it's not the same as delivering this teaching. When you realize that God has actually visited this country, raised up one of our people, Elijah Muhammad, and all of what has happened from that time to now, and when you have had experience such as I have had in trying to get across the major aspects, even in a one-on-one situation, you know then that if you're going to come out and talk to an audience, whether it's this size or 1,000 times this size, on the day that you teach, just like he told me once, the Elijah Muhammad told me, you take a half day to a whole day to yourself. It's not just the focus that's required, but it's the spirit that you have to be in. You don't come to the dinner and then decide to get hungry. No, it don't work too well like that. We were actually taught that you only should eat if you're hungry. And you and I know we do not do that. We eat because we want to eat. We eat because it's time. Right? Not because we're hungry. Now I have this shades on not because I'm trying to look smart, but because in my rush to get out I forgot 3 things. And I forgot my glasses. I've been wearing them since I was 14 years old. That's 50 years. I have no choice. I want to look in your face and know who I'm looking at. I don't want you to think I'm trying to conceal my eyes, some hip thing. Okay? Let's get all that out the way from the get-go. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, I've thought for the last 3 days hard on how could I wrap this subject up. There's certain things I was going to read, a portion of I'll just make a reference to them in the effort of conserving time. Okay? Now, the part 1 of this, I played a portion of a tape talk by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It didn't take but a few minutes, but it was direct, right to the major point of telling us in the plainest language who black people are. When you say to black people in general, white man is the devil, there's an emotional yes to that. But the emotional yes is not based on a knowledge of nature and history and science. It's simply based on they don't treat us right, they haven't treated us right, yeah, we call them anything. And so the mistake there is that people think that we're engaging in name calling, and that's far from the truth. When you say that black people are God, hardly no reaction. If there is a reaction, it's an emotional yes because you want to be something. But it's not out of an understanding of history and science and nature. Okay? Well, in that talk, in that little small couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, what I had in my mind was this. I can't make you do it, but I was trying to use a righteous device to get you to think on a deeper level about what prayer is. Some say, I prayed, I didn't get no answer, because you prayed wrong. Or maybe it's because what you asked for, you have misjudged the amount of time it takes for the answer to come. Then you mess up the prayer, you blow the effects of your prayer by becoming impatient and subconsciously cursing to God. So you blow your prayer out the window. Allah is very independent. He may not get around to hearing your prayer, your next prayer, for a while. He's real. Now, Brother Leroy, as I told you, I learned from him and his wife 2 Sundays ago, is suffering from pancreatic cancer. I'm not going to repeat all of what I said then because those tapes are available if you choose to get them. Now, I went back to the phone to talk directly to him to ask him for permission to do what I did 2 weeks ago. Between the moment I hung the phone up, walked into the other room, something became very clear that you could do for him, and that he indirectly, because of his condition, gives you an opportunity to do for yourself. I hope that you walk with me, because I'm going to go through this rather rapidly, okay? It is the duty of a Muslim to come to the aid of your brother and sister when he or she is in distress. So said Elijah Muhammad one day to me in a letter that I got way back when I was living in California in 1959. That's a lesson. That's a principle. A principle is a fundamental truth without which some things you might want to happen cannot happen. Okay? You want to drive a car. You must put the key in the ignition and turn it. Putting the key in the ignition will not get the car moving. And even if you do that, if you got no gas, you're going nowhere. Fundamental principle, okay? What I played for you of the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, those were his words. That's him. He explained that God came not just to tell us he's God, what all that was about, the implications, the ramifications of that, but he came to tell us who we are, and that he came to set us on a course that would make us like him. In the court, now it's not on that tape, but I've heard him say, some of you have, maybe directly or indirectly, but I've heard him say many times, the reality of just exactly who God is. Man is God, God is man. That's hard for people to believe when they have been steeped in a world of spookism, ruled over by people who don't believe in spooks. They teach us that which they don't believe in themselves, and they're rich and we're poor. They're smart and we're dumb. Now, the Bible and Quran both use the plural we. We have never been given the understanding of why we. Superficial Christians think it's God, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and that's the three who make the we. Wrong. Because there was a we back there, even in Genesis. And we made Adam, and we then ran Adam out of the garden. Right here on this earth. We ran them from one part of the earth where we were to another part where we wanted them to go, where we were not. Got that? Okay. Now, he has made clear that you and I, we are original people. He said that's part of this revelation from God to him. He didn't get it in a dream nor in a vision, nor as a result of a large plate of food eaten late at night. But he met God face to face, as the Bible says that would happen. Again, it's hard for black people to see that. But nevertheless, you have to find the most intelligent way to get it over to our people. And then when you get it over, be patient with us, because we're ignorant. There's nobody more ignorant than we. Now, when you are ignorant to who you are, and you think you are who you are not, and you believe the false identity of yourself is the true identity, then it's very difficult for a person to get you to know who you are, especially when the knowledge of who you are is so infinitely superior to what we are right now. To tell a black brother or sister on welfare that you are the direct descendant of God, that's harder for him to accept than for you to say, look, if you go around the corner, there's $1 billion with your name on it, in a bag with your name on it. Now, he will emotionally move toward that, even if you don't believe it. But to tell him something more valuable, you are the direct descendant of God, when all you know about is your nigger days and nothing else. You got to do some work to get over to us, to get us to see the reality. And then subconsciously, we believe the white man is God Almighty. We believe they are more beautiful than we are, handsome than you are, better than you are by nature. Some brothers even think that when you got a white girlfriend who you know smells like the dog that you may have in the same house. It's cold, isn't it? But that's real. So I asked brother for permission. I said, I don't need your permission, brother, to ask the believers to pray for you, but I need your permission to tell them exactly what I have just learned. He cried. I've been knowing Brother Leroy before you met him and you married to him. And never saw him cry about nothing. But them brothers came up hard, you know what I mean? Crying is something you do in the funny papers. Crying is something that happens on television. Crying is something that happens at rare occasion. You might get 1 or 2 tears at a funeral. A lot of us come up like that. I love that brother. And I even asked a few of our medical people to write up a paper on visualization. But before I got to that part, I let you hear some words from Elijah Muhammad about yourself. You got it on tape. It came out well. They didn't blow it this time. But you can think on who you are. Now, it's one thing to be poor, raggedy, dumb, stupid, and hated by a lot of people, and you start praying. Right? It's another thing to begin to realize something of your real connection by nature to the God you're talking to. It's not a conversation, but you still got infinitely superior to way down here. But you know that by nature, you got his nature, you're from him. You got your mother and father in you? Then if we are God's children, then God's nature is in us. And this past Wednesday night, I read to you 5 paragraphs from the Scientific American, June 2000, where the white people are learning, and they're telling us that on a subconscious level, everything works with great mathematics when we are in good health. Talked about the communication that goes on the cellular level with stupendous precision. And then I used that to say, look, subconsciously, that's our nature. Not just the way the body works, but the way our natural thinking is, the subconscious spiritual side of ourselves. That's cool. But consciously is where we all screwed up. And then we take the conscious, which is messed up, and try to inject it down into the nature of self, and then we become almost impossible to deal with. Even when you can come out to an audience and say something good, and somebody in the audience will think you're talking about them personally. And damn it, you might not even know them. That's how messed up we are. Okay. But God loves us in spite of all of that. His love is such where there's nothing you can do to cause God to throw you away. Now, I've learned this from talking to Muslims. Even though you're in the nation, you still think like a Christian in certain respects when it comes to God. I'm talking about white Christians who have this concept of a God who is essentially angry at you 24/7, wrathful, and about to come down on you the next 5 minutes if you blink the wrong way. How the hell are you going to serve a God like that and say he's a God essentially of love? Just because your father and mother may have raised you like that, that don't mean God is like that. Because the white man's like that, that don't mean God is like that. Get what I'm saying? Now, so we went on and I touched something of CBS. I don't remember the details of it. I defended Minister Farrakhan because I was there at the interview. Therefore, that obligates me. Not only was I there, but I'm sufficiently articulate and I can write well enough to get across what I saw and what I heard, and they lied 24/7 on the minister. They just lied. It's like 1% pure stuff and 99 parts of strychnine. The only truth was when they had him on, he was talking to himself. That's the only truth that was done that day. Everything else was a lie. Straight up. Some people have said, Jabril, you're coming too hard in the paper. I'm not coming hard enough. I'm trying to be reasonable unless I get thrown out the paper. But I'm livid with rage over what I saw. You don't try to kill Farrakhan. That's my brother. And I love you. To hell with you. Now, I did say to you, if you get the tape, you can get all of what I have to say on that subject. You can get it if you get the tape. I talked about 2 hours last Sunday. That last Sunday is 6 articles that I've written, or 5 articles, whichever, that I've already written for the final call, but it's going to take time for it to come out. The last one will come out as number 36. Naturally, speaking isn't the same as writing, so if you read the articles and you get the tape if you choose to get it, you won't be word for word because I'm talking to a live audience. You understand what I'm saying? But if you get the tape, you got my summary, and I know nobody can overcome that. That's not set out of arrogance. It's set out of knowledge. I know what I'm talking about. I was there. I can see their motives. I know what the minister said. I even know why down in his heart he used the word complicit, and I told y'all. And of course, the question we dealt with last week was, why did God let all this happen? And he let it happen to, as Minister Joe put it, to create, in the martial arts they call it, a false opening. And the white man ran in. Wham! The door went shut. His behind is now trapped. He took advantage of what he thought was a little lamb-like fire coming. He wasn't paying attention to what's going on. He's all wrapped up in his system. And they thought they had him. And I saw Mike Wallace read the entire statement. You know, that worthy of death statement, comma, read the entire statement, the whole thing in context. When it came to TV, he lied straight up. And now he and Hewitt were jammed up by a man named Bergman. But I ain't got time to read all of this. 2 days ago, Bergman is the man who came down on 60 Minutes, and they made a movie called The Insider. That's heating up. But that ain't as much. Do you think Allah gonna let CBS get away? Hell no. That dam's gonna crack, and their argument's gonna spill out all in the street, and Allah will disgrace them. That's gonna happen. And I deliberately put the date down when I did, so that, because I'm bearing witness from the Word of God, so that when it happens, you can say, now how did brother know that? Not that I'm smart, but I can show you the route by which. If you're a carpenter or whatever, plumber, whatever, you can say, here's how I did that, which you didn't know how to do. Brother Jason came over and fixed some plumbing for me. Well, he knew how to do what I didn't know how to do. All I heard was some noise. Jason, I'm in trouble. Follow what I'm saying? Okay, now, so much for that. White folks in big trouble. Big trouble. Big trouble. Now, brothers and sisters, on a talk that I made called Let Us Not Be Swine, I read to you, and I don't have time to go into as much as I thought, depending upon what the schedule may be the rest of the week. Maybe I get a chance to cover it. But on the 24th of March, I asked Minister Farrakhan a series of questions on subjects which he said right in the conversation. The subjects he hadn't even thought of them before. But he answered in a very powerful way that was so stimulating to him that one, he said after it was over, which is not on tape, it's like he enjoyed it because he knows that something was put in him when he was had a wheel-like experience, 15 years ago, 16 years ago, 15 years ago. He had a powerful experience. But he doesn't know all of what was put in it. And when you ask us a question on something we have never studied, what is the best answer we naturally give? It is called, I don't know. He began answering something he never studied. I only want to take a small piece of it because it connects with what I'm saying right now. And I wish I could deal with this whole thing, but I can't now. But I want to deal with it on another occasion when we have at least an hour just to deal with this one subject. Because there's a tendency on our part in our immaturity, especially when we first accept this teaching, that as we begin to defog or come out of a little spooky cloud, so to speak, we begin seeing imperfections in people. They already were there. You didn't see it. But you need to understand why we go through that. What is that experience? What's the nature of it? How does it compare with a baby? How does it compare with the growth of a child? Huh? Is it naivety or is it something else that you're missing? Okay? How does it compare with the history of the black people, period, going back into the eons and eons of time? We need to learn to think more deeply. We think too superficially. We need to take some classes in thinking, but you can't get it from white people. You got to get it from yourself. So Minister Farrakhan dealt very powerfully with what he called natural sin, for lack of a better word, and then this other kind of sin that came with the father of the white race, which is a sin, the base of which is a denial of God. And now this world is such, where when you don't see the teachings and not thinking about it, all you're surrounded by is total evil. Total evil, and what you think is good is evil put in an attractive package. So the one who started this whole thing off back there in the 1930s had us to come to all these meetings. Huh? Because the more you meet on the Word of God, the greater the chance you got of getting the world out of yourself. and getting to be stronger so that you can keep the world out of yourself. It's like eating. It's like any medicine that we need. Now, I'm going to skip by that because that's a huge subject, and it involves even the unpardonable sin. I asked him questions that had to do with sin that was unto death and sin not unto death, and I also asked him some questions concerning the unpardonable sin. That I have to leave a while. But here's what I asked him over here. I said, Brother Minister, we spoke earlier about motivation. The question I wanted to ask before we got into all of this is, we've heard the principle, actions are to be judged according to motives. What are motives? What is the origin of motives? Why is it that there are times when people act from good motives, such as prophets, and they're misunderstood? Minister Farrakhan, well, to be able to judge motives, one would have to be very gifted, because that is to look upon the heart of the individual, and as the Bible teaches, none knows the heart but God. So if you're able to do that in a certain instant, that's by the help of God at that moment. Okay? So none really knows the motives, sees motives truly, but God. But we are given the ability to examine facts to try to arrive at a motive. What is a motive? A motive is a predicate. It is the thought that precipitates an action. But a thought with an emotional content, okay? Therefore, in order to understand the motive, one would have to understand the thought and what gives rise to the thought in the mind and of the doer of this act. In cases that God has given human beings the privilege, even the right and the authority to judge, if it can be shown that the motive, even though the act was not good, but the intent was not to do harm, that is a mitigating circumstance that lessens the punishment for the act. A good judge always, and good prosecutors always try to determine a motive or even fabricate a motive to justify the penalty that they wish to extract from the court on an alleged criminal. Right thinking, thinking that's based in truth, thinking that's based in the principle of justice and fair dealing, that kind of motivation for action is accompanied by the Spirit of God. That kind of what? Action. Out of that kind of motive, it's accompanied by the Spirit of God. I just warn us again, be careful talking to one another and watch. Watch if your spirit, to use a simple language, is lessening, going down. I don't mean if somebody brings you news that some loved one or somebody that we know and love is hurt, that's going to make us sad momentarily. I don't mean that. I mean when you're talking about other kind of subjects and you're talking about the truth, supposedly, and yet there's something about the way this person is talking to you that makes you go down. It's because there's something wrong with that person. If you don't check yourself, you will then enter their spirit.
That's right.
The opposite is true. The opposite is exactly true. There's some of us you get around, I don't care how bad the circumstances, they always will leave you feeling better about everything or about something. That's the Spirit of God. Okay, now, and you can't fake that. Now, that kind of motivation for action is accompanied by the Spirit of God. Ill motives, no matter how bad the outward appearance of the act may be, is derived of the Spirit of God, and therefore it doesn't have the power that it could have had the person been rightly motivated. So what gives rise to motivation? Thought. This is the minister talking. Desire. Then the method that is chosen to fulfill the desire gives you the thought, the desire. The method helps you see motives. Now let's see if we can prove that. The human being is a creature of need and a creature of desire. Whatever we desire in life, the desire brings up a picture in our mind of what we desire. The next thing is, how do I attain my desire? The how. If it is a good desire, if it is a good desire, it is a desire that's in harmony with the nature of God and of the nature in which He created us, and in harmony with His laws, a good desire. But evil can be masqueraded as good, and it is evil because the intent and the motive for this apparition of good is really evil. So Satan makes himself appear as an angel of light, but only to deceive those who seek light, evil motivations. Light is good, but the motive for the use of that light is evil. Therefore, it is short-circuited of divine spirit. And in the time of the presence of God, evilly motivated people will never have the power to accomplish their cherished desires. And I believe that's why the scripture says, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. So real might and real power is in finding how to create or possess the Spirit of God in everything that we attempt to do to fulfill a cherished desire. Now, I'm going to have to leave this juicy material, hopefully for Wednesday night. Maybe you'll allow me to squeeze in a little bit of it. Wednesday or whenever, I don't know. But I'm looking at the time, and it's something I got to lay on you that is like a word picture. I will simply introduce the next section. Now there's where we were going to. We had just left dealing with a large segment that I didn't deal with, which I hope we can deal with one day. See, this whole idea of God saying it takes around 75 years for the human being to learn how to live. And the ups and downs and the sins and the faults and the things that happen. And if you've been pretty good guided and you go at this thing right, around that time you begin to master things. You and I, though, are so damn ignorant and so judgmental with no knowledge at all. If the believers who were in this mosque from the time I got it started by the help of God Almighty, the latter part of 78, 79, up to 87, if those brothers and sisters decide to get back, and if they get back in the right spirit, they will help you younger ones like you can't hardly imagine. Because they had a lot of contact with Minister Farrakhan, they heard a lot. They had continuous, almost non-stop contact with sisters anyway, with Mother Tanada Muhammad, and I was there doing what I do. And Minister Farrakhan said that this group, back at that time, he said, was the best group he had. It was the leading mosque or group, circle, whatever you want to call us, at that time, in love, study, and productivity. And he asked me to get it back where it was, and it's been extremely difficult because you are filled with rebellion. Just to be frank about it. But I was talking to a very good brother who sometimes comes. I won't mention his name. Brother Jackie and I, a couple of days ago, I hope he gets this tape. And he was telling us something I didn't know. The minister saw him a few months ago when he was here. And the minister was talking to him. The minister was happy to see him. You have to remember, Minister Farrakhan is an extremely hard-working man. And those years, he was happy to come here in this city. He didn't say it once or twice. He has said that more times than I can count. He said it in private, said it in front of a lot of people. This is not to make nobody feel good. This is a reality. Listen and stop tripping over your own feet, mental feet, okay? And you stop and you miss 2 or 3 sentences. When you get back on track of what I'm saying, then you don't know what I'm saying, right? It's right in your face. I can see. I ain't stupid. Dumb as I look anyway. Now, he saw this brother who was on post and got out of his car and hugged him. Because this brother represented a certain period in the minister's very difficult life. That when he came here, it was pleasant for him. He had one spot he could put his foot down. And we treated him a certain way. All right, that don't leave. That's important. Now, I'm going to run this until it runs out. We're not going to be here very long. It won't take long. I'm going to get this said before you know it. It's not long. Now, he told the brother to get in touch with the others. Minister Farrakhan, if you know anything about him, he's a man who is absolutely, listen to this, designed. He's designed to touch everybody. If a stone got water in it, he'll bring it out. He was looking to see if Mike Wallace, who is the stone, had any water in him at all. But it looked like old Mike is the same now in the year 2000 as he was in 1959. Looked like the boy hasn't made no progress at all. But Allah has something for him. He allowed him to live long enough to see some things. He had an opportunity to get action from God, and he blew it. Did you hear what I said? Mike Wallace, you don't mess over God's man and get away with that. Allah will punish you for that. Everything you think about Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan, that is heard and written down. You got what I said? It's heard and written down. For you or against you. Now, in 1960, October, I was in Chicago. I was blessed to have dinner with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and at one point, he was talking to me about Moses and the wise man, which you can read about in the 18th surah of the Holy Quran. And he told me that the Moses was symbolic of his followers and how we follow him in doubt and in suspicion. I got to be sure. If I don't get these other things read, I will tell you where you can read them. And if you do, before the night's out, don't take long to read. It'll make you very happy and make you very glad you came out to have this mentioned to you. Let me introduce what I want to say this way. Suppose if we had started this meeting off with this kind of a point, that we don't have to ask, everybody's interested in their own future, correct? You definitely are interested in tomorrow for you and some other people. But you are at the center of that interest, are you not? Each person in this room, you are very much interested in your tomorrow. Now, if somebody came along and told you, look, they knew something about your tomorrow, would they get your attention? If they just said that one thing, I have some knowledge about your future, how long would it take you to get in the right state of mind to want to hear what they have to say? It's instant. Now, suppose the person says it's in the Bible and it's in the Quran. Now right there, suspicion comes up. Quick, instantly. And you're suspicious of them. But you're not suspicious of the scriptures, but of them. And suppose they say, look, it's not that I was back there, I didn't write them, but I know who wrote them. I'm acquainted with the people that wrote it. I got direct access to their mind, their thinking. And I know how to get past all the symbolic material to take you right to what they had in mind about you. Suspicion and doubt is still there, but a lot of curiosity too. Now you got a lot of mixed motives going on, right? Because you sure enough want to know, but you ain't never thought about nothing like that before. Not that kind of an approach. So what we are face to face with in America is this. The man who came here and taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is thoroughly acquainted with the writers and the keepers of Scripture. Now the how is another subject, but I'm only going to say that much for right now. Thoroughly acquainted. And you say, well, how can anybody be acquainted with the past? Well, how do you know there was a George Washington? Huh? How do you know there was an Alexander the Great or a Hannibal? How do you know? How do you know there was a Santa Claus who came just last year? If you believe in that stuff. Huh? That's a right now thing, isn't it? Okay. White man tells you a lot of things, and a lot of things on a daily basis that we accept. Tomorrow the temperature is going to be 105. Tomorrow it's going to rain. Get an umbrella. What do? You believe it. You believe him so much because there have been so many times when he's been very near correct. You take it for granted, don't you? And the rare occasions when they blow it weather-wise, you kind of just chalk that up. No big deal. Now here in this magazine, which is designed to make money, these headlines are usually off this tabloid, Weekly World News. It's like the one I told you about last week, where they say Jesus lost that case. He lost the defamation suit in Munich, Germany. You remember that? We dealt with last week. But Jesus was not the one who sued. It was those 3 clergymen who sued. Jesus did not sue. So how could Jesus lose the case? When I say those three clergymen lost the case, and how do they know it was on behalf of Jesus? How do you know Jesus would have sued for defamation? You never read that in the Bible, did you? Huh? He didn't like to be defamed. And if he was alive, if he could walk around here right now, would he sue people? No, the book says when he comes back, he's not suing, he's saving and killing. Not a lot of conversation going on. Forget about courtroom situations. Now, this print says, deadliest weather ever will bring America to its knees. Stop. What would America look like brought to her knees? If Bible predicts stormiest summer in history, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, and that's just the beginning. What's the basis of the statement? Is the motive to make money? Is it to appeal to the thinking of millions of people who feel something's about to jump off big? Well, something is about to jump off big, very big. A whole series of things. Now, we don't have time. You can read this stuff. We can deal with this another time if you want to. But the main point of it is right now, there's a lot of headlines out, some of which lie. Don Hewitt of CBS is angry with the people who produced the movie called The Insider because he was portrayed in a manner that he said wasn't the truth. So he's angry over how he was treated in a movie that millions saw. But he's not angry. He's not at all angry being in Minister Farrakhan's house, eating Minister Farrakhan's food, enjoying Minister Farrakhan's company, and then lying on Minister Farrakhan. It's okay to lie on a black man. Just don't lie on a white man. Is that what it is? There's a piece of news right now that says, if I can get it real quick, that points out that White people are very much against affirmative action. I don't think I can find it fast enough for you, but there are polls being taken, a lot of polls, and a growing number of white people do not like affirmative action. And Martin Luther King himself stated, I'm paraphrasing him, that affirmative action was the least possible thing white folks could do to pay us anything for what they did to us. It was reparations. Huh? You follow me? It's like nothing, not even a crumb. It was the lowest level, absolute zero. And white folks are turning that down. White people got a short fuse. Now I heard some white people talking on the radio yesterday. K910 on the dot at KFYI. About how angry they're, KTR radio. About the anger rising in white people over Mexicans coming across the border, getting jobs they say belong to them. White men got a short fuse. Don't take much to tick them off. They're telling you straight up the country's about to blow. They're by a very, very respected journalist called Haynes Johnson. I flipping channels and saw him on channel 41 the other day, C-SPAN. He was saying that the media is the mirror of America. It shows America what's going on. If you look at the media and look at and the entertainment media, now it's in the hands of just a few people, isn't it? It's a few super rich corporations with a few people at the top directing the whole show. You know what this does? It makes it easier to get rid of them. It makes it easier. The scripture, I can remember back in the 50s, I used to wonder, Almighty Muhammad said, the gathering of the people is going on. I said, how do you gather them? I mean, I had a very silly idea at that time. I mean, what is the gathering of the righteous and the gathering of the wicked? We all mix together. How does the gathering take place? And now, you and I don't own the cable and none of the stuff that makes the media tick, do we? It's in the hands of a few. All of it's dependent on what? Satellites. Now, who is it that's really behind the study of asteroids? The asteroid are rocks that go all over the place. Suppose the asteroids are the rocks not hitting the satellites. The way the white men represent them, they just float through space. No, there's somebody directing them. They can be directed. If there's any truth to the magic bullet that they said killed Kennedy and got Connolly, one bullet that did all kind of movements in space, like a hip-hop bullet, you know what I mean? Dancing around the place. If that's real, then them asteroids can move around the same way. Now, here's what I want to take you through just for a few minutes and then stop. We've got plenty of time to do it in. I'm only going to read you a portion of a couple of articles that I wrote back beginning on April 1st, 1988. There's something Minister Farrakhan informed me of, and I immediately saw the duty that I had. And that day I went home and I wrote 2 articles, and the next day I wrote 3. And I'm going to try to get past at least the first 5, and then wrap this up for the day, and so the Jackie will take over. Please bear with me as I read this. This is being written on what is called Good Friday, April 1st, 1988, also called by some April Fool's Day. This didn't occur to me until I sat down to write these words. It occurs to me, however, that the ironies and paradoxes involved in Good Friday and April Fool's Day, if we had space to go into them, might make a very interesting means of introducing an in-depth commentary or essay on the prophecy that involves Moses traveling with an unnamed, divinely wise man as described in the Holy Quran. The scholars and scientists are divided over whether Surah 18, verses 60 through 82, is referring to a historical event or a spiritual experience of Moses, such as a vision. In either case, what we have here is that which points to something to come well after the time of Moses. In fact, these words refer to that which would occur in the time period called the resurrection of the dead and the judgment of the world, which is now. A great amount of energy has been expended by learned men over such factors as, if this was a historical event in the life of Moses, when did it occur? Where did he meet this man? What impact did this meeting have on his mission? What does this event in Moses' life and in the life of the one with whom he traveled have to do with us? Other questions have been raised and several answers have been offered. Since this event is described in the book, the Holy Quran, revealed to and through Muhammad of 1400 years ago, it is a worthy problem or question to raise. What impact did this passage have in his life? And what was its bearing on his work? Can you still hear me? Okay. Then too, there are detailed explanations that say in effect that what we read in 18 verses 60 through 82 is a vision God gave to Moses about Muhammad of 1400 years ago. All of these and other questions and points are important and worthy of study and discussion. I think it best, however, to attempt to sum up points we do not read in what the scholars and scientists of the Jews and the Muslims have produced. Let us start with the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said that those of the black people of America who made the decision to follow him generally follow him as the Moses followed the unnamed man whom God made wise and whom he guided. He spoke to me of this in October 1960. Now listen, please, brothers and sisters, I don't know how far we can go with this today, but if not today, what my aim is, my motivation, is to take you to the point that will help us get past that kind of following. And it involves going to the root of this teaching. You follow me? It involves going straight to the root, past the superficialities. And at that point, as we more often don't do than we should do, and confront ourselves with the ultimate reality of what this is all about. Where is this all going? When you come face to face with the past and present that hook up in your person, at that point you can make up your mind. You're either going to go forward or backward, but you'll never be the same. Because it's a heck of an experience to really be confronted with your own divinity. To really be confronted with what makes you from God, just as it is. And then finally, again, I repeat, where is this all headed toward? Because America is certainly going to be chastised. And I've heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explain it. You've heard the minister explain it. The way it is explained, you don't see no way out of that thing, do you? Hope this thing makes a noise so I can know when we get there. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has demonstrated before 1960 and since then that he knew scriptures altogether. It is a matter of public record that he taught that his interpretation of the Bible and Holy Quran was given to him by Almighty God. In addition, he demonstrated the truth of his position time and time again. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the one of whom Moses of 4,000 years ago was told of by God and shown in a vision. God made Moses to see that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would receive a greater manifestation of God's glory than he, Moses, did, and that his, meaning the latter's capacity for such, was much greater than his. That it had to be due to the nature of his task or mission. One other thing I almost forgot to mention. Pardon me. You recall last week, we got into the why of the statement in Jesus. Why he said this generation was going under. You recall me dealing with that last week? Jesus said that the blood spilled by the wicked from Abel to Zechariah, like A to Z, would be required of this generation. But you know that didn't happen 2,000 years ago. One generation so evil that it's made to pay for the crimes of everybody who ever lived. Huh? So naturally the wrath of God would be stronger than any other people who ever lived in it. You remember Jesus said in the Bible also, he said it will be more tolerable for that city or this city or that city, the cities he was preaching in, than it was for Sodom and Gomorrah. Everybody in Sodom and Gomorrah got wiped out. How can it be worse? It must be not just physical death, but an anguishing death. A death that you just pay for days and days and days and days. Days, weeks, years. Rough death. You say, was God mean like that? Look, when you try to kill his servants, that means you try to kill him.
Yes, sir.
If you in your normal right mind will act to defend yourself if somebody goes to hurt you, you think God is any less than you? If you go to kill his servants, he will react to you. Now, he let the evil ones get away with murdering his prophets in the past, putting him in jail. Isaiah, who's one of the greatest prophets in the Old Testament, the Caucasians say that he was sawed in half. allowed all this mistreatment of his servants. Now, as we covered in greater detail than I can cover right now, covered it last week, that particular generation that gets total wrath gets it because on the coming of Master Farad Muhammad and the effect of the truth on the people, after he raises Elijah Muhammad, after he raises Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan. Okay. Finish here in about 15, 20 minutes or less. I'm not going to hold you very long at all today. This is the simplest way I know how to put this rather big idea. In this last around 70 years, I'm not saying that the prophets who were alive in the past have come back and slipped into various bodies. Like Deborah came and slipped into some sister, and here I am, Deborah too. You know what I mean? Or Hosea 3, or Jeremiah 9, something. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that all of what they taught is contained in the Bible, the part that the Caucasians let get through, plus the Bible. So all the essential teachings of the prophets of the past, we have it now. Plus we have the perfect understanding of it all, inasmuch as God has come and raised the one up the one best qualified to receive it and convey it clearly to the rest of us. So we, as well as white people, white America, are confronted with all of what all the prophets ever taught. And to reject Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan, which is rejecting the one who sent both of them, or raised them, is the same as rejecting every righteous prophet who's ever appeared anywhere on the earth. Therefore, the punishment should be to the max. Jeremiah said that the God in the last day will send all of his arrows against America. All of them. You see David Tua knock out this man Obed Sullivan last night? He crushed him, 51 seconds. Well, imagine in the ring, you're not supposed to hit a man when he's down, right? Just imagine, now I'm trying to give you a quick picture. Hit him, he's down, then stomp him, kick him, burn him, stab him, chop his head off, jump up and down on him, get your boys to jump on him. Get the idea? That's like throwing everything you can find at a dude that you just hate him. And that's what God has in store for this country. They have robbed us totally. They robbed us of the very basis of self-love. I mean, it's hard to get Muslims to look at themselves in the mirror and recognize who the hell you are as to the teaching. I'm talking every day to believers all over the country about who we are. I mean, running stuff as sharp and as clear as I ever learned it. And it's hard to get us out of self-hate. You in the mosque with a long dress on and a bow tie, bald head, white shoes, sisters, all that. Hate self. It is right. Meaning this, you have accepted up to a point and you stop. You hit a plateau of learning. When you hit the plateau of learning, then you begin to disintegrate because the whole group don't want to move forward. And all you want to do is pick at your own faults and others' faults, like you see monkeys in the zoo picking at each. Well, they are cleaning one another. They are. We'll probably take that back. They are cleaning each other up. You won't do that. And you miss so much. And then some of us have become self-righteous, and others have just given up. You're a shell of what you used to be. All of which because you stopped and you've been stuck on stupid for years. And that's the part that I told you that I asked the minister about, but I am not going to rush that. I'm not going to deal with that today. It's a fat page and a half, and it's juicy. But you cannot be a 2-year-old in your thinking and even appreciate where he's coming from. Because when you hear the word sin, some of you will go, Now, the brothers and sisters that was in this circle who were in their 20s when I first got them, in their 40s now, they've been to school. And they understand, and they notice something. One of the things that they notice in their life is God ain't slapped them over dead. And they begin to think about that. Wow, wait a minute. They do a little evil, and nothing happens. Do a little good, get good results. And they've gradually grown to have a little bit more, or I wouldn't say a little bit, a better grasp of the God. Because the horrible part about us, we got a view of God that we put God under our parents. And you know your parents, if they're good parents, they love you. Don't they? But you put God under your parents and you put him into some stupid niche. Then you put him out of your house. We got to grow up because we're on a course that takes us right to him. Minister Farrakhan is on his way there now. I don't mean by being in Libya now. No, let's not be stupid. No, he went to Libya to talk to his brother over there, his other brothers. I'm talking about where he's going to go to get the new wisdom he has to get. He'll be in their company. And that's where you're on your way to. But you can't, it's hard to get us to see that. Because you can't fully accept you the original man and woman. And you want to stop on some simplistic definition first. What the hell does that mean? How about try this on? Original means that which contains its own source. So whoever you from, they in you now.
That's right.
You don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with God being in you right now. Because you hate black. He's a black God, I don't like it. I'm from him, I ain't going for that. Let me turn on the television and watch some madness and get myself out of the world of this black thing. Tired of it. You even got some Muslims. I've had Muslims tell me to my face, Jabril, can't you talk about something else? I don't know nothing else. They don't say that blunt because they think I might go off. They say this nigga is one-track minded anyway. Don't tell him what he might do. Because I don't fear you. You follow what I'm saying? I fear Allah. And I'm scared of his servant too. His servant got big juice. It's like the fear that you have, a child has of your parents. When you were spanked, when you were small, didn't you hold on tighter to mommy and daddy's leg? You didn't run, you tried to run, but it was like you held on. Huh? I mean, study that. You were getting, your behinds being stung, and yet you were expressing love. Why don't you do that to the God? Huh? Because we got a silly idea of God. And I think all of y'all who are courting somebody, you should forget all the stuff you're talking about. Find out, y'all talk about what's your conception of God and what's your conception of God. Start with that. If you don't get past that, the rest don't mean a damn thing. I don't care how pretty he or she look. What's your view of God Almighty? Let's get this straight first. Because if your view ain't the same, y'all ain't headed in the same direction. When are y'all going with the white man? Or maybe both, depending upon what that conception is now. Muhammad of Arabia is reported to have said, would that Moses had kept silent so that God would have revealed to us many more secrets of the unseen, which implies what? About Muhammad himself. This is among and akin to other statements that he made that clearly indicates that wise and as good as he was, there was a far greater disclosure or revelation of God's wisdom yet to come to a man in the future after his time, which we say is right now. We read in the Muhammad Assad's translation of the Holy Quran the following, verses 66 and 68. Behold, you will never be able to have patience with me, for how could you be patient about something that you cannot comprehend within the compass of your experience? It's outside of your experience. And you're going to take what he's saying is, you're going to take your experience as greater than my knowledge and wisdom, which is beyond your experience. See? Which is a form of arrogance, isn't it? Muhammad Abdullah translates the same passage this way. Moses said to him, may I accompany you so that you may teach me also that wisdom which you have been taught to you. He answered, you cannot bear with me and you cannot have patience with regard to that matter of which you have no knowledge. Still it is put this way in another translation edited by Malik Farid, who said, Moses said to him, may I follow thee on condition that you teach me some of the guidance which you have been taught? He replied, you cannot have patience with me, and how can you have patience about things the knowledge of which you comprehended not? Moses made a strong statement to the effect that by no means would he disobey, that he would be patient. Note that he, the student, said that he would be patient, comma, if Allah please, close quote. You're asking a man for what's in that man's head. And then you're telling, and the man says, well look, you got to be patient with me. And you say, if Allah please, come on. Come on, that's your out. Using God as your out. You see that? The teacher asked the student to demonstrate this by not questioning him about anything until he tells it or explains it to him. He was saying, okay, if you are to travel with me, then you can show that you live up to your word by being quiet. Your mouth can or will interfere with what I am doing or will do. It could impede my moves. You could hurt things of benefit coming to you and others due to your expression of part knowledge. Just keep quiet, all right? I had that said to me by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in this city in 1961. Not in these tones, not like this. But I have explained that to you this past week, how that was told to me. But there was something I was beginning to see that had to do with the moves of America with respect to China. I didn't realize that what I saw was that little piece that I saw. But he shut me up in mid-sentence and said, no, brother, don't say that. You may cause the God to have to come up a different way. Whoa! So 6 years later, when he asked me the question, where did I think he was going to go and when, I wrote that down on a napkin. I didn't say nothing. Then he got up and walked around to my ear and blew gently on my ear after cupping my ear and said, this is the way you talk to people when you don't want the sound to get out. And he cupped me. He said, that's what Allah showed him. It's interesting, huh? Okay. But you know how we are. We love to talk. Suppose it was revealed to you in a vision exactly how Allah was going to take them out, exactly how we would be saved. How long would it take you to tell somebody? The first person you saw, huh? He was saying, look, in making this trip with me, you're traveling on a road. You're traveling by a method, both of which you are unacquainted with. Your knowledge and your experience up to this point is inadequate to enable you to comprehend all that we are about to encounter as we go forward. You cannot use yourself and whatever else you bring this endeavor as the measure or as the yardstick by which to comprehend that which you will see here and even see me do. You will understand, however, at the proper time, God's time. But what happened? The student didn't only question his teacher, but he charged him with evil motives in the first instance and said that what he did was grievous. In the second case, he charged his teacher with a capital offense and stated that what he did was horrible, and on it went until they parted company. What did the wise man do? His student saw him put a hole in a boat that belonged to others, by which, as the scholars state, the owners used to earn their living. He saw this man, from whom he expected to learn more of God and his ways, kill in apparent cold blood a young boy. The student saw nothing in the boy's behavior whatsoever that merited death at the hands of his teacher. And what did the student think of his teacher? And what explanation was he given by his teacher before they parted? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not put holes in boats, nor did he murder anyone. He did guide us, however, on a path, although spiritually he did, in a certain sense. He did guide us, however, on a path and by a method that we knew not. He was raised among a sleeping, mentally dead people, to whom he introduced unsurpassed wisdom, even that which no man had ever taught to the public before. Thus, a totally new thing or phenomenon was introduced by God through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Imagine, brothers and sisters, what kind of character, power of character you have to know that you met God. To know this beyond doubt. To have God demonstrate and show you in various ways who he is. Okay? Then you go out among savage so-called Negroes who reject you at every turn and who show they're not even arguing with you on the same level as the wisdom you're giving them. You're talking about this and they react to that. That's hard, isn't it? Now, God and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad worked to produce Minister Louis Farrakhan, who was leading us on that same path, the path which is filled with the wisdom of Allah. Now, how does all of this relate to the origin of wisdom, the wisdom of God himself? First, what is wisdom in the common sense of the word, or in its common definition? It basically means the quality or state of being wise, sage, acidity, discernment, or insight. It is the possession of scholarly knowledge or learning, the sum of scholarly learning or wisdom, the grasp of the wise teaching of the ancient sages down through the ages, which produces deep understanding, profoundness, and judiciousness, sapient comprehension, penetration, appreciation. All of this is taken to be wisdom. The sum of what has been perceived, discovered, or inferred the ability to make sensible decisions, make a wise plan, course of action based on a wise outlook. This is superficial though. It is understood that learning facts does not necessarily give one wisdom. It must be matured through certain experiences and well understood. It is a quality deeper than the understanding of what is true, right, or lasting. It is deeper than insight. It is something far beyond common sense or the exercise of good judgment. It is generally acknowledged that the scriptures provide ample evidence that there is a knowledge and understanding and a wisdom which is above that which most of us, humanity in general, usually don't utilize most of the time. This is so in most instances, despite the fact that the wisdom these books contain compels our deep respect, even reverential awe. Muslims, for instance, won't put the Holy Quran on the floor. They even place it higher than other books in their homes, and there are other acts with respect to it which indicate the profound respect they have for its contents. Let's take a brief look at how this word and that which it represents is used. The reason for this is to give the reader in a very brief, condensed, comprehensive, and yet broad idea of what wisdom is from a few dictionaries and encyclopedias. Now what I'm going to do is skip all of that because of the time. I'm just going to mention, I'll mention just one. Catholic Encyclopedia, under the word entry wisdom, you read this. In its ordinary meanings, wisdom refers either to the perfection of knowledge or to the accumulated information in a certain field, in ancient sources, or in human experience. The term has also more than one theological meaning. In experience, the term has more than one theological meaning. In the scriptures, it refers to the personification of God's wise dealings and plan for the world and the human race manifested in both creation and redemption. And there's several other definitions that I'm going to skip by. Then I go to this. Now, what is the root of the wisdom of the first life that came into existence? Elijah Muhammad deals with the root of everything. You can't get that kind of knowledge in the white man's world or his books because he don't have that. As he taught us, the first life was self-created. Now, let me jump ahead and say that I'm going to be sure I put this out there, especially for you sisters, from one angle and brothers from another angle. Because a male is a male and a female is a female. We know that man perfects his wisdom through his interaction with the woman. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, at least you heard that. Even if you don't understand it, you heard it. Now, we also have been taught that the secret of God is in the woman. Okay? Then that's a pregnant statement. I would suggest this to you. I won't have time to get into this. If please Allah, the next opportunity I would like to get into it with you. But in the answer given in the 14th answer, in lesson number 1, meaning of MGT and GCC, there's 64 words there. I'm not going to say that that's connected with the game show in the 1950s. Okay? The $64,000 question. Wasn't that what it was called? Yes, but it's become a cliche. And it has to do with something, wisdom that is hidden. Now, sisters ordinarily don't know what is meant by the wisdom of God lay in her. She say, well, the womb of her head, her physical womb through which the baby is born, and the sisters can hardly go beyond that. But I want to suggest this to both of you. As there was a second self to God in the beginning, a woman, the second self of Master Farad Muhammad is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He's styled as a woman in some places in Scripture. And if you study that relationship, then you can begin to get an idea of the depth of some of these broad statements made about the value of the black woman. Look at this. And also a warning in it to the sisters. Look at this. We all know in general, and sisters, don't do like two of my good sisters did a couple of nights ago, and we put that in check last night, didn't we? Or was it the night before last? Two of my sisters took a part of what I said. And I'm not going to take back what I said because hell, I know what I'm talking about. But I said it with the thought I was going to go deeper into it, and now I'm not going to go deeper into it. If you can't handle 1 and 1 is 2, the hell with going into 50 and 50. But I said that there was some man who came with the wicked intent to get the beautiful sister out, marry her, and take her to the grave. I know what the hell I'm talking about. But I was trying to get into something, and you short-stopped it. With ignorance. Then there are sisters who come in the nation to get them a Muslim husband. But sisters in general, they hear more and they react. There's a difference. She may come with that intent, but the motive and the strength of it is not the same as these brothers. So two of my beautiful sisters, I'll never name who they are, that's a divine secret between Jackie and myself, only took a part of what I said. Left out the rest of it. You can get the tape if you choose, but it's a valuable tape. The point that I was making is valuable. But that's a fact. It's a fact. Now, the question is, why did I say it? Stop this stuff when a person says something. If you don't know why they said it, why don't you keep your mouth closed until you find out why they said what they said? If you don't, that means you have pronounced judgment on a person without knowing what you're talking about. Now you've compounded the problem. And with me, you do that to me, I say, the hell with you, I'll back up off of you. No, I'm not going to cast what I know out there for you. If you mess up that, you mess up the next part. Because the next part's much heavier. But I'm trying to introduce you to it again by saying, examine the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He told us that the most important of all knowledge is the knowledge of God.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And yet God sets it up where you have to go through his servant to get the knowledge of him, because he puts the knowledge of himself, his powers, what makes him God, in his servant. So you access God through God's second self. Now you have a crude picture of it in the book of Judges. Samson. He was married twice. Both those women messed up. The first woman gave his secret up, and she still wound up getting killed anyway, her and her father, by the wicked. But when Samson learned from them that they had discovered his riddle, which was something he put on them, he told her, but he told them, put the riddle before them, there was going to be benefit for his people. She gave it up. Follow me? Instead of trusting in God to protect her life and her father, she gave up the secret because she bowed to the will of the wicked. She wound up losing her life anyway, like I said. But he said these words, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would never have discovered my secret. And sisters, I say to you as your brother who really loves you and understands you better than you think, on my level, the worst thing a sister can do, a married woman can do, is go outside the house and tell the business of the house. Sisters, don't take me wrong, but it is traitorous. Okay? And what will make that act odious in our sight is if we just study what being a traitor is. To take the private business, don't care what it is. There may be occasion when you may have to take some business to a certain authority, but not to the general public. Don't ever do that. That's a big no-no, okay? If your toes curl, well, I have to say it, and let it curl up, and it'll uncurl later on, okay?
Yes, sir.
But that's important to know. Because the principle is God himself. The closer you get to God, the more you will learn. Huh? Aren't you closer to God than the average person who walk in the street who don't know nothing? Well, you can mishandle some of the wisdom and hurt somebody out there. Or you can betray state secrets, classified information, and hurt. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Do you really? Brother, how much more do we have left on that tape? Have you any idea? I don't have 45 minutes. I've been talking several minutes. You don't know. That's the same as saying you just don't know. That's okay. Now, I'll say that again. You're on your way to God. As you move closer and closer to God, with the hope that one day you live with God and the righteous, according to Revelation, God and man will dwell together, right? Well, do you see what I'm saying? How serious it is? We are in a world that is filled with liars. Look at entertainment, these various talk shows at night. They start off by mocking people, don't they? They start off by lying on people. How would you like to be the butt of some of those jokes that millions of people hear when they flash your picture? This is an irreverent society. They have respect for nobody. And their disrespect like that is taking them straight to hell. Okay. Now, what is the root of the wisdom of the first life which came into existence? So let me not leave that point. So you can learn something, sister and brothers, something of this huge principle by studying the relationship of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his teacher. Something of Minister Farrakhan and his teacher. You can learn a lot about that ultimate beautiful expression or view or principle of the wisdom of God lying with the woman. Oh, that's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. Sisters, even your design was righteously premeditated. Oh, I can't get into that, but that is a huge subject to get into. And the more you get into it, I mean, the woman becomes awesome, brothers. I mean, that's not, think about the brother, because the brother's a pattern after that first man. Yeah, I mean, that's deep. But my Lord, we hardly know who we are. Look, let me tell you the importance of this. One is as clear as the other. The other folks being devil. And you being part of the God people, the God tribe or the God class of people. It means one, that you are going to replace these people as rulers of the planet. That's why one of the reasons they were allowed to get so big and so powerful, so that when they are replaced, you don't start off no low, you start off from a very high place yourself. You follow me? We're not going back to the Stone Age to get our thing up all over again. He said if we wanted something to start our civilization 20, 25 years, we want the most modern stuff they got. And Allah is able to take it from them and give this to us. Give us a lot of practice. Then we go ahead to the next stop. And it says that in the scriptures it may well happen. It don't have to happen, but it may well happen. Probably will happen. Probably will happen like that. Now, but you are also to replace those scientists, those 24. Their authority is going to be given over to you. What kind of effort should we make to qualify? The reason we're not going full steam ahead, and the reason we wind up biting ourselves, because you hit a plateau of learning and you stop, and that's why the building isn't flooded with people.
Yes, sir.
Because Allah's not going to send them in. Not going to bless your efforts until you get up off being stuck on stupid. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You got to start growing again. You say, I got to study, but yet you don't study. Huh? What's stopping you? Huh? Motive. Your motives have a lot of grease stuck off in there. The bearings are messed up. I want to study. Well, why don't you do it? I got to get busy. Why don't you do it? I gotta. It's like a car messed up. It ain't going nowhere. What's going on? There was a period of time during which that life went through stages, which that life ordained for self on a subconscious level, such as babies, you and I go through. The stages through which babies grow or seem to develop, the power is from within the baby. And if you notice, it looks as if there are preset stages, correct?
Yes, sir.
All of us should have a knowledge of all the stages life goes through. It's like it's preset. Time for this, time for that, time for the other. Where does that power come from? From within. And that's what I was trying to get you to see in playing the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So that when you pray, your prayer will be more powerful, more impactful, because you will be praying, understanding that part of what you are doing, you are involved in a co-creative act with God to bring about a new situation.
Yes, sir.
White people got plenty of self-help and empowerment books downtown in libraries. All of them fall short of what you have already been taught. Okay? Now, you're about to bring this part to an end. The baby is not conscious. Consciousness comes later. We can never know how much time passed between the first movement in space of that first live atom, which originated time, and the time when he later set up the basis of our ability to count time. Just like you and I, when you were small, you don't know when you were first conceived, do you?
No, sir.
But you know you passed through a long period of time where there was a whole lot of subconscious action going on, right? Now, even when you were born, the first 6 months, how many of y'all remember your first 6 months of your life? Nobody. If you say you do, we have to stare at you very hard. Very hard. But you're going back over the track of the first God. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's from the wisdom that was revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So in studying yourself, you're getting acquainted with God. If you just stop making a study and get out of the mud rut that you put yourself in. Get out the car, put some sand under your wheels, your car will move again. You'll get active again, your life will come into your heart and brains again, and you start attracting people. Then everybody here will be happy. You lose weight, you'll gain money, everything will be fine. Try it. You will definitely like it. You find yourself sitting down having coffee with each other more often, or tea or whatever. Ginger. Maybe a lot of us should be on ginger, huh? Because our food is not digesting too well, is it? Too tense, full of stress. All of this points to the origin of wisdom as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. On page 9 of Message of the Black Man, he wrote that the father of the Caucasian race taught them how to teach that God was only a spirit in such a way so as to trick the original people into subconsciously thinking that they were really the chosen one, God's favorites, and really the gods to whom we all ought to submit. The belief that God was other than a man goes back into millions and millions and more years because the ultimate knowledge of God was kept as a secret from the public. It was the maker of the white race who taught them how to use his insight into God's reality. The point is, God deliberately, but from a good motive, kept the ultimate knowledge of him away from the general public. Yaqub came along and taught, God is a spirit. He told a lie. Because he was going to make his people not depend on spirits to rule. He was going to make them depend on his wisdom to rule, not on spirits, but to make the rest of the people believe in spirits. So now you got spirit. You got God holding himself from the general public. Now you got that which is for a good motive, and then you got the father of the Caucasian race teaching that God is a spirit, but from a wicked motive, and doing it in such a way as to cause the people to deny the very existence of God. And so most college people come out of college saying, God, they come out so-called agnostic. Well, I don't know, and nobody else knows. Cat usually have a 19-inch neck and it's not made out of muscle, it's fat. You hear what I'm saying? This pontificating. I don't know, nobody else knows. Or there is no God. The fool, the Bible says in Psalms, the fool has said in his heart there is no God. And the fool there means the stubborn person. The whole vast creation screams that God exists. And you can learn a lot of the wisdom of God by even studying a leaf. Not to think of studying the human body. Okay, now. And the amazing thing about this is, not amazing anymore, these same Caucasians who got people believing this, these same people who pontificate there is no God, serve white people. Invariably, their master is the white man. Okay, now. Now I'm going to skip some of this to get to the end of this. I'll just say this real quick, this piece here. I'll take about 10 more minutes, maybe 11 more minutes and stop. He said that this that he's teaching us, this wisdom from his teacher, is from the root of wisdom of the creator of the universe. The creator of the universe, his wisdom had a root that goes down into his own subconscious. Okay? And once you begin to understand God is man and man is God, part of what will help you appreciate that is the study of your own human body. And the marvelousness of it overwhelms your mind. You look up into the stars at night, aren't you filled with awe?
Yes, sir.
You will be filled with far greater awe if you just study the human brain. This is the power of creation. This thing that you got on top, got here, this thing that your eyes are sitting in front of, that your neck is holding up, this thing has more power than the sun. Not the way it is now, but potentially. A brain, not a huge brain either, produced the sun. And don't get spooked with the idea of bigness means power. The white people have proved that now. They get smaller and smaller and smaller computers that are more and more and more powerful, right? And you already know that if you split the tiniest atom in this room, everybody in this room, and for a block around would be dead. Okay, so much for that. But that kind of silly thinking is the same as, well, Santa Claus is a huge 9,000 pound, or at least a 900 pound white man. Huge. 12 stories high. That's the way children think, right? Okay. Now, it is clear from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that for most of the time during which human beings have been in existence over the trillions of years, they have not had the actual knowledge of God. Man once did. People really once knew and lived with God as he is. But that was 66 plus trillion years ago. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has publicly taught that this is the first time in that many years that the public has been taught the actual knowledge of God's full reality, and taught right here in the stronghold of Satan, and taught to Satan's greatest victim, us. Man once knew God on a mass level or in a public way. What was the state of that relationship? What state were people in at that time? What was it like to live on earth back then? What was the quality of the relationship between God and man when man knew God as he was/is? What took place back then that caused man to lose the knowledge of God's reality? And why did God conceal himself from man and woman at that time, way back when? What caused the relationship between God and man to change that many years ago? Again, what could have happened to bring in such a tremendous change in the life of men and women on earth when God withdrew the full resplendence, magnificence, and richness of his reality from the people? Remember, this change was so great that it produced even a change in time. Now, I touched several more points that I won't try to go into right now to make this point. After mentioning several more points and raising several questions, which the average one of us can't answer, okay? It's done to say this, that in the head of this wise man, Elijah Muhammad, symbolized by the wise man, is wisdom that goes way beyond anything we can think about. And this man walked among us, and he lived in Phoenix, Arizona. He taught in this city. He went out to public places and taught here. He lived here. He walked around on these grounds. One day, 4 or 5 of us walked with him downtown, right downtown Phoenix, to get some exercise. You know, we drove him around the city. Do you hear what I'm saying? He had people to visit him. Who was the man? Some brothers and sisters who are adults right now, with little boys and girls on the same block where he lived in. Who is Elijah Muhammad? That's a very, very important question. See? He spent, of course, more time in Chicago, a little time in Washington, D.C., more openly, a lot of time when he was on the run back in the 1930s, early 40s. If you tell people straight up the identity of this man, most people would not believe it.
That's right.
So you have to ease that. You have to use wisdom and skill to get people to see. And one of the main ways to get us to see is this. If you can get our people to begin realizing who they are, that we are the dead to be raised, that the Bible talks about it, to be raised, and not people coming back up out of the ground. That's one route toward helping us to eventually see who the resurrector of the dead really is. But that's another subject, and we can't get into that right now. But I'm saying that to say this. A man walking around, look at his books. You've read some of his literature? Extraordinarily wise man. Extraordinarily wise man. And yet in this country, right now, how many people understand it? And so only about 144,000 were predicted to accept it. Hence, Louis Farrakhan designed to get everybody. And the getting of everybody is going on now. Did Brother Eric, did you bring the Jet magazine out? Did he bring it? He was going to run off copies. Did he do it? Yes or no? He did? Okay. My reason for asking you that is, did you notice how Jet magazine treated Minister Farrakhan? If you haven't, you'll see it. Treated him the opposite of the way CBS did. Showed a loving picture of him and his wife. Beautiful picture of him on the front cover. You know Jet sold out. And we don't even have Jet in the city of Phoenix. I bought,
I think the latest Jet was marked May 29th. It may come out on the next. I don't know if it come out.
Yeah, well, it'll come out, but it's just like Phoenix. It's out all over the country, but in Phoenix. Just like the Afro began to come out here 3 years after it was dying everywhere else in the country. Then we begin to see the Afro pop up here in the 60s or 70s, whatever it was. Boy. Now, do we have anyone here today for your first time? Let me see who you may be. All right, I feel comfortable with what I'm about to do. I'm gonna put a pin in this, because this next section I can't rush it. It's crucial to this subject. And if you don't mind, I would like to ask you to be back Wednesday. Just give me about 30 or 40 minutes at the beginning of our meeting Wednesday, right at 7:30. So let me finish what I'm into right now, because this may take me too long and we still got other business to take care of. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, sir.
All of you?
Yes, sir.
Some of you, not all of you. You think about it. If you're not too deep into the party thing, huh? I understand. Okay. I'm not talking about Jordan, John. I'm talking to my brother. Would you do that? I don't want to rush this. I want you to understand this. And some things you just can't rush. But when I get through with it, if you look at it and examine it and think over it and go in your Quran and look at it, and you can start tonight by looking at it. Just examine what's there. I think this may be a means by which we can get off this thing called that plateau of learning. When you get there, you stop. And I learned of the expression plateau of learning from Minister Farrakhan. He was talking about, I asked him a question, which is in a book called The Possibility, the next printing of which has been sitting in my computer for the last 2.5 years. But I asked him a question. Could the nation have grown beyond where it grew back in 1981 if he had not come to the realization that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive? And he, as you know, taught it. And of course, a lot of people thought the Nation of Islam was going to go all the way down. Because here he is telling the world that his teacher is alive in face of a body, a death certificate, and all the rest of it. The doctor saying Elijah Muhammad was dead. And then he said also, there were 2 dentists, one in Mexico and Dr. Salam. He would pay for the exhumation of the body. And if it could be proven that that body was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's body, he would stop teaching. And if he stopped teaching, where would you be? What made Louis Farrakhan so certain? Huh? And I wrote an article a few years ago in the series called The Case, where I got into the root of the minister's self-confidence by taking you back to the basis of God's own self-confidence. And that's where I'm headed with this. So that you can look at Brother Minister Farrakhan and be more confident than you are. You can look at the wisdom you got in your house and have a, not just respect for it, but a love that moves your hand to pick the book up and make the time you got to make to start reading it. Because you're stuck. And by you being stuck, you're sticking our people up around this city.
Yes, sir.
And we're doing that throughout the entire country. Huh? Do you hear what I'm saying? And you want to get it together before God takes Minister Farrakhan to himself. And not in death, but takes him to the plane to meet his teacher for the second time, face to face. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear what I just said? Is that worth you coming out to listen to? At least if you doubt, come out to check to see if I blow it or not. Huh? How many of you going to really make the effort to come back Wednesday night? Let me see your hands. How many of you know right now God don't want you to come back here Wednesday night? Okay, I'm going to stop on this then, because there's a lot. This is a very, 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 very ticklish part, and I don't want you to misunderstand, so I'm going to stop on that. I hope that you will read tonight the 16th chapter of Ezekiel, the first 10, 12 verses. Is one of the most staggering expressions of God's love for you and I. I wish that you would also read chapter 43, just the one chapter of Isaiah, where God is talking directly to you through his prophets. He's talking about the fact that he himself created you. I know you think you created yourself, your mom and daddy did it. Somebody else more powerful than your mother and father put you together. Did you hear what I just said? Read it for yourself. Just give me 2%. Like 2% milk, it ain't even real milk. I'm just asking you for 2% confidence that when you read Isaiah chapter 43, you're reading about yourself and the rest of your people. Just read it, okay? I'm going to stop on that, and Brother Jackie's going to come up and deal with the announcements and whatnot, and then I want to close the meeting out after that. Thank you.